I am a woman who loves sports, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the way that these organizations systematically and intentionally silence victims of abuse.
I got one more question. I don't care. He says go to commercial, but I got a serious question for you. There's a couple of disturbing incidents of domestic violence in the NBA right now. What are we doing to address that? Because that is you can't put your hands on women, man. And we should be at the forefront in sports when the men hit women. So what are we as a league going to do about that?
It really pisses me off as a woman who loves sports because I feel like a bit of a hypocrite watching, okay? It feels like an ethical dilemma every time I'm enjoying a sporting event because I don't know what type of person these men are because they are so good at covering up their bad behavior. And there is a system behind this. I realized if I felt so passionately about this, I needed to do more research. And so I decided to create a Substack. And no, I'm not asking you to go read it. I'm not asking you to pay for shit, all right? I just needed a place where I could put together all of my thoughts and research on this topic so that I could have a knowledgeable and informed opinion on the subject. And so today I'm going to be reading you what I wrote so that you too can be armored with the knowledge of how do these teams keep getting away with this? How do these athletes keep getting away with this? And what is the actual issue here, right? I'm not sitting here on my high horse telling you to boycott sports forever and to not watch the Super Bowl and this, that, the other, and the third, because I do believe there are athletes out there that are good people. I don't think every single person out there playing sports is like hitting their girlfriend and being a terrible person. I don't. But I do think that when those situations arise, there is a system at play to cover it up and make us forget about it. And I don't ever want these victims to be buried in the news cycle. I don't ever want y'all to forget about what these athletes that I've done case studies on have done. And so I am going to go through and read you my Substack situation and just kind of ad lib and tell you my thoughts as I was researching for this and what I've learned. Trigger warning, we are going to be talking about some sexual misconduct. We are going to be talking about women and children and a lot of really gross shit. And I'm going to try to leave a lot of the vulgar details out of it, but I do still want you to get that knowledge and really understand how serious these situations are. I also want to acknowledge that with these case studies and these athletes that I chose to look into and coaches, I am not saying that these situations are any worse or any better than other situations that have happened. I'm not minimizing or ignoring other situations that have happened. I know that there have been sexual misconduct allegations from athletes in all different sports, all different eras, so many different people that people get upset that people don't talk about. Cristiano Ronaldo, Kobe Bryant. Today, I'm just doing case studies on certain specific athletes, but I am not trying to minimize the stories of those women. I'm not trying to minimize the situations that happen. I am just simply studying certain examples that I feel like give a good picture to what happens. Some current, some previous, but you'll understand when I read it. I just don't want anyone to get upset thinking that I'm minimizing any other stories that I don't mention. As a sports fan, it's almost expected that your favorite athlete will be eventually accused of abuse.
The NFL is such big business, and every day this week, such a big story.
It happens so often now that fans are becoming numb to it, and worse, athletes are being rewarded for it. What led me to make this video in the first place is these recent allegations that have come out against Rashee Rice and Stefon Diggs. Stefon Diggs was awarded moving his court date for his abuse allegation situation with his chef, which I did not do a case study into, so I don't know enough about that specific case to really speak on it from a point of being super educated on the subject. I did read a little bit into it though, and I'm always going to believe a woman. I don't think women are just out here faking being abused. That's such like a common misconception about abuse victims. Like, I don't think these women are like in it for fame and money or to be victims in this sort of situation. Nobody wants people to look at them as a victim of abuse. I'm not saying it never happens, but it is incredibly in common.
Breaking news here at noon. New England Patriots star wide receiver Stefon Diggs is being charged with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery. The charges are in connection with an incident on December 2nd. Diggs' attorneys were in court this morning trying to get the police report impounded. Well, right now, Diggs is due in court on January 23rd, which is 2 days before the AFC Championship game. Diggs has the most receiving yards on the Patriots this season and has emerged as a team leader. In a statement, the Patriots said they are aware of the charges, adding, quote, Stefan has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stefan. We will continue to gather information and will cooperate fully with the appropriate authorities and the NFL as necessary.
And they moved his court date to 5 days after the Super Bowl because he has a work obligation. And it's just like, so if the Patriots win a Super Bowl and he gets to add that to his resume and to his legacy, you know, it's just like, let me just handle this little court case real quick. It just like sways public perception so much in a way that I think is unfair to the victim. Also, Rashee Rice, like we knew this guy was an asshole when he got into that accident on the highway during Easter weekend going like 130 miles per hour or something like that in a Lamborghini and fled the scene after getting into a pileup and injuring multiple people, tried to walk away from the accident on the shoulder. Like, not a great guy, went to jail for it, and Travis Kelce is showing up to games with free 4 shirts on. It just shows how disconnected athletes are from reality and from, hey, this guy can really play football, but he did a really shitty thing. And there are people who have injuries that are going to be impacted for the rest of their lives because of this. He doesn't need to be free from jail any sooner than he's going to be. Plus, most of these athletes get slap on the wrist punishment when it comes to the law anyways. But his ex-girlfriend came out accusing him of abusing her.
Well, former SMU and current Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is facing accusations of years-long domestic abuse. On social media this week, his ex-girlfriend posted multiple photos showing visible injuries and property damage. So reached out to the Chiefs about the accusation. They sent a statement that reads, quote, the club is aware of the allegations on social media and is in communication with the National Football League. We have no further comment at this time.
While she was pregnant, which I'm not even going to discuss what I think should happen to men who physically harm women who are pregnant with their children. That is insane to me. She posted photos of what happened to her, it's just so vulgar and disappointing. And I was at my wit's end. I am so tired of the same old story. And then he's just going to be playing next season and it's just going to be whatever. And everyone on ESPN is going to have to cover him as if he's just another athlete, and he's not. I have seen his girlfriend's wounds from what he has done to her. This shit is not normal. Deshaun Watson became the highest paid quarterback in NFL history after dozens of women accused him of sexual misconduct. Jackson Hayes played a nationally televised Lakers game hours after surveillance footage showed him dragging his girlfriend across a room and spitting on her. Karl Malone was honored at NBA All-Star Weekend 2 years in a row, despite impregnating a 13-year-old child. In professional sports, talent becomes currency, and once someone is too good, organizations stop seeing them as people. This isn't an accident. It follows a pattern. These athletes are not just, human beings that, if they're shitty, this probably isn't good for my business, let them go. They are the top of the top, creme de la creme of the most premier athletes in the world. It is hard to become a professional NFL football player. It is hard to become a professional basketball player. That shit is hard. You know how many guys went to your high school and were like, I'm going to the league and didn't. It's not an easy thing to do. These people are some of the most talented and gifted athletes in the fucking world. And they are the product for these owners. And I have a whole other series that I'm doing on, the power dynamics behind sports and ownership and general managers in the front office and coaches and that power structure. But owners are the owner of this business, right? And the coach is kind of like the manager of their business, and the athletes are the product. They are who the fans are paying to come see. They are who these owners that are investing billions into these brands, they are who the fans are paying to come see. They are the product. They are the vision. They are the asset for these owners. And so they aren't considered to just be your average Joe, your average person. They are investments. This isn't an accident, okay? It follows a pattern. The sports world doesn't protect abusers because they don't know. It protects them because they're profitable. Good character doesn't win football games, unfortunately. Before the allegations, Deshaun Watson was the prototype franchise quarterback. He was drafted in 2017 after a celebrated college career at Clemson. He was praised for his leadership and community involvement. When Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston, he donated his first NFL game check to the stadium cafeteria workers. And by 2019, he wasn't just a star, he was the Texans' brand. Then, between fall of 2019 and spring of 2021, that's about a 17-month period, Watson booked massage appointments with at least 66 women. In 17 months, he booked massage appointments with at least 66 women.
We do know that if you're the National Football League, you haven't needed criminal charges to make a decision before. Something simple and plain. Make a damn decision. That's what the NFL should do. Now, you have a situation that's going on right now. Let's make sure we understand this. The belief is, as Mad Dog Russo pointed out last week, where's there's smoke, there's fire. The strong belief is that, damn it, you did something. You've been accused by 24 different women of the same damn thing. I mean, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it ain't a mongoose. That's what I've said on numerous occasions. On his side, they're lying. There's no truth to this whatsoever. Read the reports, and you'll see the details about how ridiculous this is. That's what his side says. We don't know. We know that they're accusing him. We know that he's denying it. Here's what we do know. We do know that if you're the National Football League, you haven't needed criminal charges to make a decision before. You haven't even needed civil charges to make a decision before. The mere fact that this stuff is in the news is enough for the National Football League to make a decision as to whether or not they want Deshaun Watson playing this year.
You guys, that is not normal. If you get massages, I get massages, okay? You find a masseuse you like and you stick to them. I mean, if you're not moving cities or out of town or attending a spa at a hotel or something like that, it's not common to just be switching masseuses all the time. I would imagine that a professional athlete, wants to get massages more often than the average person. However, you don't need 66 masseuses over the course of a year and a half. That's fucking weird. And more than 24 of these women later accused him of sexual misconduct, describing similar patterns: exposure, coercion, and pressure for sexual acts. I read a lot of these lawsuits in preparation to make this video. A lot of them really made me upset. I just can't. Like, stories about sexual abuse make me so sad because I just cannot imagine how a woman feels in that situation or criticize the way they behave when something like that happens to them, especially when you're in a situation where this rich, famous NFL player with all this money and power that could change your fucking life is coming in wanting to get a massage from you. Like, one of these women said that he came in and bought hella bottles of her $40 skincare. Like, he bought a shit ton of bottles, cleaned her out, and basically sold out her skincare. And like, that can change your fucking life. So of course you're going to want to keep this person happy. Some women came out in support of Deshaun Watson, but the interesting thing about these lawsuits that I saw was that they all followed the same pattern. They all had a very similar story of what he did to them, what he said to them, how he acted towards them. And it almost seemed like he got off on the idea of making them uncomfortable. Like, that was his favorite part. And it seems like that was the reason why there always had to be a new masseuse, so he could get that element of surprise of making them uncomfortable. It's fucking weird. Minnie said he contacted them through Instagram. There are screenshots of these DMs out there of him being like, I just want to support Black-owned businesses, trying to make them feel comfortable before booking a massage appointment with them in a hotel. In depositions, Watson admitted that it was not a priority for him whether the women were professionally trained. You would think as an NFL quarterback, you would want a professionally trained masseuse to be massaging you. And he did not ask about their qualifications or certification or any shit like that when he was booking these masseuses at all. And contacting them via Instagram as if he's like looking for women. By mid-2020, he was frequenting a Houston spa where the owner allegedly connected him with multiple unlicensed therapists, accepting a $5,000 payment from him and encouraged the employees to keep him happy. Several of those women later filed civil suits.
Why did you want to come out and tell your story today?
Just to help other women that may be going through the same thing that I'm going through.
Mm-hmm. So tell me first off, what happened? Like, where does your story begin when it comes to with Deshaun?
Like where to start?
Yes, like did he contact you or what happened?
Yes, he contacted me through the DM, April of 2019, I believe, and that's how it started.
And what exactly happened?
Got a direct message, said he was interested in getting a massage. I let him know I don't do massages, and that's on my Instagram page, but I was trained in it.
The New York Times did a deep dive into the way that the Texans and this Houston spa enabled his behavior with these masseuses. And one of the ways he did that is by paying, one spa, one massage parlor for plenty of their masseuses to keep him happy. In November of 2020, after a spa employee threatened to expose him online, the Texans' director of security placed a non-disclosure agreement in Watson's locker. He began bringing this NDA to his massage appointments. He also used Texans' provided access to luxury hotels to host sessions with some of the women who later went to the police. Why do you need to get your massage in a hotel? I saw in the direct messages between him and one of these masseuses, him trying to book a massage and being like, is it okay if I book a hotel room? Why do you need a hotel room for a massage? I would understand if you're out of town. You live in Houston. I don't understand that. Maybe on the road that would make sense, but in Houston where you live, I just don't think you need to be in a hotel. Most people, and I know this from personal experience, this isn't from my research, but a lot of the rich folk I know have massage beds and have rooms to get massages in their houses and have the masseuses come to their houses. A lot of them will get massages with their wife at the same time, every fucking week. You don't need to be in a hotel, is my point. 3 weeks after leading the NFL in passing yards, Watson requested a trade from Houston. 4 months after signing a $156 million extension with a no-trade clause. If you don't know what a no-trade clause is, there were like 2 basketball players last season in all of the NBA that had them, okay? It basically means that the team can't trade you unless you want to be traded. It gives you all the power. Teams are only going to give that to you if they really want to keep you and make you happy and make you want to stay. Why would an owner relinquish all of their power to trade an asset if they didn't really want you to stay in their building, which is probably why they were enabling this fucking behavior. Watson held significant power due to his contract and talent, and in March, the first allegations emerged, leading fans to speculate that the Texans were trying to punish their star for trying to leave. In March of 2022, the Browns traded 3 first-round picks for Watson and gave him a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, the largest in NFL history.
Deshaun Watson is expected to be a member of the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Cleveland Browns. In an unbelievable, stunning turn of events, Deshaun Watson is waiving his no-trade clause only to the Browns, sources tell me and colleague Tom Pelissero. And that is not all. When this trade is completed, Watson is expected to get a 5-year, $230 million contract that is fully guaranteed. That is $80 million more than the previous record for fully guaranteed money at signing.
This contract caused so many issues in the NFL with the NFL Players Association. Owners were pissed about this because they were worried that their stars were going to start trying to leverage this Deshaun Watson deal of fully guaranteed money to try to get fully guaranteed contracts of their own that didn't have stipulations for, if you make, this team, if you win MVP, if you win a Super Bowl, you can get this money, like having markers for them to earn their full contract. Deshaun Watson didn't have to do shit to get that $230 million. And spoiler alert, he has not lived up to it. Allegations didn't make him a liability. They made him a business calculation. In 2025, he got engaged to his longtime girlfriend, influencer Jilly Anais. Anais. I don't know how to properly pronounce her last name. Well, I guess it's going to be Watson soon. But yeah, I mean, no disrespect. I haven't heard her last name said before. She built a following around her lavish wag lifestyle and cooking content for Watson. Jilly stood by him through over 24 women coming forward with sexual misconduct allegations. So the allegations did not make him a less desirable marriage prospect either. But that's a subject for another day. The Texans didn't stop Watson. They supplied him with non-disclosure agreements and hotel access for his massage appointments. It's telling that alarm bells of his predatory behavior only rang when contract tension surfaced and Watson held the power. So right after your player you gave a shit ton of money and a no trade clause to decides he wants to leave you and you have no power to stop him, all of these allegations come out. But before you're giving him NDAs and giving him hotel access for these appointments. That's purely speculatory. I got that from the New York Times and their deep dive they did into the situation in 2022. So, hey, it doesn't look good. A lot of fans at the time used that as something to take away from the validity of the claims from these women. I don't think that it makes the sexual abuse allegations any less valid. I just think it makes the Texans also complicit in what Watson was doing to these women. Jerry Sandusky and St. Joe Paterno were legends at Penn State. And another example of institutional silence that I'm talking about is Jerry Sandusky.
Someone powerful at the school abused young boys.
It was a scandal of epic proportions.
Child sex abuse committed by Jerry Sandusky.
Years of glory erased.
Horrific accounts of a Sandusky basement of horrors.
Penn State, where football is religion, exposed for the ultimate sin, protecting a monster. Former coach Jerry Sandusky.
Sandusky and St. Joe were legends at Penn State, praised for reforming young men and guiding them to graduate college. Sandusky even ran a charity, the Second Mile, a nonprofit organization for underprivileged youth and support for their parents in Pennsylvania. Even after retiring as defensive coordinator, Sandusky had access to school facilities, including his own office and the locker room. He used his Penn State affiliation to lure young boys to campus with tickets and merchandise and eventually abuse them on school property. When a graduate assistant reported seeing him assaulting a child in the showers, head coach Joe Paterno told administrators, athletic director Tim Curley, and senior vice president Gary Schultz instead of police. He did the right thing professionally, institutionally, what he was supposed to do, report it to the people higher up than him at the school. He did the wrong thing morally. He should have went to the fucking police. When he heard that that was occurring, he should have went to law enforcement. That is not a matter you handle internally, privately within the school. They never banned him from campus. They never monitored him. And the abuse went on unchecked for 7 more years, as we know. An FBI-led investigation later concluded that Penn State leadership covered up Sandusky's crimes to protect the football program. And in 2012, Sandusky was convicted on 45 counts of child sex abuse involving 10 boys.
Sandusky wants a new trial for his child sex abuse charges. He says he wants the new trial because previous lawyers didn't represent him well enough. Prosecutors never revealed some victims changed their stories. Sandusky was convicted of 45 counts of abuse involving 10 boys back in 2012. He is currently serving a 30 to 60 year prison term.
I do want to take this moment to acknowledge that young boys, men, are victims of sexual abuse too. I think it's much more common for women to come forward and us to see women speak about their situations with sexual abuse. And I just want to acknowledge the bravery of those boys for coming forward about what they were experiencing against such a powerful coach and person at Penn State. I watched a documentary, an HBO documentary about State College, Pennsylvania, and how much they worshiped these men and how much they thought Joe Paterno was just a saint, okay? And he was such a good football coach to them. They loved him so much for their football program, so much so that when he was fired for not going to the police with what he had heard that Sandusky was doing and handling it internally, they rioted on his behalf. The fans literally took to the streets. They were flipping buses and vans. They were burning shit. They literally rioted because they were so upset that Joe Paterno was fired. They felt like, yeah, Sandusky is an asshole, but like, why are you firing Paterno? We want Paterno. We want Paterno. It completely ignoring the fact that he was complicit in this situation by not going to the police. I don't care. A lot of people are on different sides of the situation as to whether he did the thing that was right morally. I do not think so. If I heard something like that, I would immediately go to the police. I would be horrified by that. What he displayed was institutional silence in order to protect the football program at the expense to those young boys who were abused by Jerry Sandusky. He allowed that to go on unchecked for 7 more years. I do not think that he did the right thing. I don't know him as a person. He seemed to be a great guy to everybody, but so do a lot of these people we're talking about in this video. In 2021, Jackson Hayes was arrested after a domestic violence incident involving his girlfriend, Sophia Jamora. He pled no contest to false imprisonment and resisting arrest, a plea that NBA policy says conclusively establishes a violation. The NBA did not suspend him. And most strikingly, the league never interviewed Jamora or her attorneys. Her attorneys said that someone from the NBA legal department called once and never followed up. For nearly 2 years, the case went untouched until TMZ released surveillance footage in 2024 showing Jamora crying, begging to leave, being pulled through a doorway, shoved, and spat on by her partner. I remember the day this came out. I remember watching the footage in its entirety. I am scared of that man. He is horrifying. The way he was treating her, there was another man present that was trying to calm him down. The way that he acted when police came, it was horrifying. I could only imagine her reliving that situation a couple of years later, knowing that for the last couple of years, he wasn't being punished by the league at all. As the world watched this horrific footage, Hayes played 32 minutes for the Lakers and had a career night, scoring 15 points on perfect shooting. The reason I mention that is because this is part of the system that allows these organizations to cover up abuse. Lakers executives framed it as a redemption story.
Prosecutors in Los Angeles formally filed charges against Hornets forward Miles Bridges on Tuesday.
General Manager Rob Pelinka publicly said that Hayes had been sincere in his apologies and had moved beyond it. I will never forget seeing him say this. I was like, here we go again, redemption story. He said he's sorry, we forgive him. But Pelinka later admitted under oath that he never spoke to Hayes about the incident. So he lied? Like that, we just slid past that. Until I was doing research for this, I had no idea that he effectively made that up about him apologizing and being sincere. How do you know he was sincere if he didn't apologize to you? And you didn't speak, you're the general manager of the Los Angeles Lakers. You have a player who abused a woman publicly, was videoed, and you didn't speak to him about it? He was arrested by police and resisting arrest, and you didn't even ask a question about it to him directly? I think that is strange. How many people in their jobs can go to jail for anything and it be public information and their manager doesn't bring it up to them at work at all? It doesn't come up at all. And it is public information that you resisted arrest from an officer. You were arrested by police. I just think that that's strange. Sidebar, I actually did a little bit of research about regular jobs and how being accused of domestic violence actually affects you at work in a normal corporate setting. And I read on a legal blog that if the accusation of domestic violence was made by a coworker, you're in a bad spot because the HR department will need to act swiftly to resolve the issue. This could lead to you being fired even before authorities get involved or before a thorough investigation takes place. If the accusation of domestic violence is made by a family member who does not work where you work, your employer will likely be fair to you while also be cautious in moving forward with you as an employee. The company might decide to place you on leave, suspend you without pay, or even allow you to continue to work until a resolution is reached. To take things one step further, you might have trouble securing employment if domestic violence charges appear on a background check performed by a prospective employer. Not only can you wind up being fired for these allegations, but the chances of you getting another job are hindered. Another fact that I found interesting about employment and domestic violence in a normal corporate setting is domestic violence, which touches 17 million people in the U.S. each year, doesn't only affect survivors' physical and mental health and safety, but it also impacts their ability to work and their economic security. The CDC did a national report that 15 million women, 12.7%, and 6.7 million men, 5.7%, have missed at least one day of work due to an intimate partner violence situation in their lifetime. In another study of women in transitional housing programs, shelters, and other domestic violence programs, more than half of the survivors surveyed said that they had lost a job because of the abuse that they'd experienced. This highlights how common domestic abuse is, which is insane, but also how common it is for it to affect the victim and their ability to work. And so these millionaire athletes abusing women that might have normal jobs or situations, contrary to popular belief, not all wags are just like influencers that sit at home all day. They're hindering their ability to work while still being able to work and make millions, which gives them another leg up to use their money as power and leverage over them. Then came Miles Bridges, someone whose neck I just will not stay off of. The fact that he still has an NBA career is deplorable. Bridges was arrested in 2022 after the mother of his children reported that he had assaulted her in front of their children. Photographs of her injuries were shared publicly, showing visible bruising and damage to her car. The case immediately drew widespread attention and raised serious questions about whether Bridges would be allowed to continue his NBA career. Later that year, Bridges pled no contest to a felony domestic violence charge. He was sentenced to 3 years of probation, ordered to complete 52 weeks of parenting classes, and was given a protective order.
Prosecutors in Los Angeles formally filed charges against Hornets forward Miles Bridges on Tuesday. Bridges is facing a felony domestic violence charge and 2 felony child abuse charges stemming from an incident in late June. Prosecutors allege that Bridges assaulted his girlfriend in front of their 2 children here in Los Angeles. Bridges is out on bail and set to be arraigned on Wednesday. He's a restricted free agent who received a qualifying offer from the Hornets before his arrest. He was Charlotte's leading scorer last season.
Despite the severity of the incident and the public nature of the evidence, the videos of Miles Bridges being horrible, the NBA did not immediately suspend him. In April 2023, the league announced a 30-game suspension, but credited Bridges for the games that he had already missed during the 2022-2023 NBA season, meaning he ultimately served only 10 games. That is less than 10% of the NBA regular season. By summer of 2023, Bridges had re-signed with Charlotte for millions. The narrative shifted quickly. Press coverage and team statements focused on accountability, growth, and second chances. The victim was largely removed from the public conversation and replaced with language about learning from mistakes and moving forward.
First of all, I want to apologize to everybody for, the pain and embarrassment that I caused everyone, but especially my family. This year away, I've used it to prioritize just going to therapy and becoming the best person I can be, someone that my family and everybody here can be proud of. I want to thank the Hornets organization and the NBA for giving me a second chance. A lot of people don't get a second chance, and I want to use this second chance just to prove to everybody that I'm the same kid that you drafted 5 years ago.
Bridges' case shows how quickly the NBA pivots from crisis management to asset recovery. There was a moment where Charles Barkley confronted Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, to his face.
Well, again, that's an area where we're not looking to compete against other leagues when you say forefront. So I think all the leagues are trying to address this issue. But I know, again, our Players Association, credit to them, this wasn't adversarial. We put in place a new program for how we deal with, first of all, accusations of domestic violence even before they're prosecuted. Part of it goes to training of our players, counseling of our players to make sure they understand during high-stress situations that, obviously never resort to violence against anyone. And so we're addressing it. We have, state-of-the-art counseling professionals dealing with our players. But, of course, and if a guy, does cross the line, the consequences are enormous.
And I will forever respect him for that because, what the fuck? The legal system imposed probation and mandatory programs. The league imposed a short suspension, and the machine restarted. Not because the harm had been resolved, but because the player remained valuable. After all, fans held merch and sold posters in support of Deshaun Watson. This picture of a little boy and his dad come to mind, where they're holding posters that are like, "Give me a massage" and "Free Watson." It's just horrific to have a young boy holding a sign like that. The NBA honored Karl Malone at NBA All-Star Weekend, and fans protested Joe Paterno's firing. There is a system at play where toxic fan loyalty and wanting your team to win more than wanting abuse victims to be vindicated and people to get justice for their actions and the actions done to them, people put that below their team winning. And after all, there is a whole other topic that we're not even going to get into today about men abusing their wives at higher rates, domestic violence rates spiking when there's a big football game. So a lot of these men don't care because they're abusing their own wives at home when their football team isn't winning.
No, the term is rapist.
That too.
That's the term.
Yeah,
it's not dirtbag.
A rapist, well, and then a dirtbag after that. Shitty father, dirtbag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Karl Malone infamously impregnated his 13-year-old neighbor when he was 20 years old. DNA tests came back that showed he was 99.3% the father. The family could have filed criminal charges that carried an up to 10-year prison sentence in Louisiana, but they chose not to because Malone was a neighborhood kid. The child's grandparents filed a lawsuit in 1985, the 13-year-old child's parents, requesting $200 a week to help their daughter raise the son she shared with Malone. He was ordered to pay $125 a week and appealed it to eventually reach a settlement that did not require him to acknowledge that he was the father. That child that he shared with this 13-year-old girl went on to play in the NFL and said Malone told him that he would have to make it on his own and it was too late for him to be his father.
What do you think about when Karl Malone gets included on teams like this, in games like this?
I like it. I mean, I think he's top 20 greatest players to play.
But what about his off the court stuff? You know, does that factor in at all?
No, I really don't know a lot of off the court stuff about Karl Malone.
He got a 13-year-old pregnant. Timeout? You need a timeout? A 30-second?
No, full.
Full?
I need a full timeout. Yeah, I ain't drafting him.
Yeah, you didn't know that. I feel like that's not like a talked about story, you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe sometimes it is.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't.
The kid did go on to go to the I think the NFL. Demetrius Bell was his name, but I don't think Karl Malone was in his life at all, and he said he treats it like his mom went to the sperm bank.
That threw me the fuck off. Like I don't.
When leagues have to act on these situations because of public outrage, they have a protocol to shift public focus until we move on to the next abusive superstar. I mentioned how Stefon Diggs is currently being accused of abuse by his female chef, and the court dates were moved until after the Super Bowl because he technically has a work obligation. Oftentimes, they shift the narrative to a redemption story for these athletes, or worse, paint the victim as the villain who cannot be trusted after settling with them in private, throwing money at the problem as if this victim isn't going to be impacted by what this man did to her for life. They request to make their names public so fans can dig into their past. They can paint them as money hungry or scandalous, while the abuser has a redemption arc fueled by a "he's been punished enough" or becoming hyper-religious, my favorite. I went and looked up Jackson Hayes, and he has "child of God" in his Instagram bio. I mean, athletes love that Bible verse, "cheat on my girlfriend" bullshit. These abuse allegations simply get pushed down in the news cycle or by their play or by alignment with superstar teammates. I always wonder how these superstars in the NBA that seem to be great guys align themselves with these assholes. I mean, everybody has an asshole coworker, you know. You don't agree politically or personally with every single person that you work with, but something about seeing them chum on together is just icky. Luka Doncic recently vowed to pay Jackson Hayes fine after he defended Luka in an on-court altercation. Miles Bridges replaced going viral for domestic abuse with going viral for game winners. And Karl Malone was posing with LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at NBA All-Star Weekend. We have to ask ourselves, who are we to decide who is deserving of redemption? Am I being unfair to these players who may have just made mistakes? And for argument's sake, let's just say I'm being unfair. What I find grossly unfair is the inconsistency among punishments that these leagues display. The harshest punishments in modern sports are almost always for things that threaten the league's business model and not the people harmed by players. The NBA banned Jonte Porter for life in 2024 after determining he shared confidential injury information with sports bettors, which hurts the integrity of the game. If people believe that these players are selling information to bettors and rigging the games for betting, people aren't going to believe the NBA is real unless people are going to watch it and they're going to make less money.
The league has issued a lifetime ban to Raptors forward Jonte Porter for gambling violations. The NBA says Porter committed several serious violations that include betting on games, providing confidential information to bettors, and worse, limiting his own participation in games for gambling purposes.
Of course, they have to ban him for life and make an example out of him so people don't hurt the integrity of the game. The violation was serious, but it did not physically harm anyone. Ron Artest was suspended 86 games for his role in the 2004 Malice at the Palace brawl, a big NBA infamous fight that involved players, fans. It was really serious. Ja Morant was suspended 25 games for flashing a gun on Instagram Live. This was, it was coming after a series of bad behavior by Ja Morant. But the point is, these suspensions paint a picture for how severe they think each situation is. 2 situations I just named, people could actually get hurt. Ron Artest was involved in a literal physical altercation on the court. Ja Morant was holding a firearm that could actively hurt someone. Jonte Porter didn't hurt anyone but the NBA and the integrity of their pockets, and they banned him for life. These are not oversights. These are showing their priorities. Leagues severely punish behavior that threatens gambling integrity, brand safety, or on-court violence with career-altering suspensions. But abuse off the court is treated as a public relations problem, not a safety crisis. It gets short suspensions, redemption narratives, and carefully worded press releases about personal growth. If leagues truly cared about abuse, the longest suspensions would be reserved for those situations. Instead, the harshest punishments in modern sports are almost always for things that threaten the league's business model and not the people harmed by players. When players are accused of abusing women and children, even when they are found guilty for it, like a Miles Bridges who served time for it, the penalties collapse. We have to bring up the Ray Rice incident of 2014. When video showed him knocking his fiancée unconscious in an elevator, the NFL initially gave him a 2-game suspension. Only after public outrage did the league increase it to an indefinite ban, which effectively ended his career. But that moment is often cited as the league's moral turning point. But what followed tells a different story. The NFL quietly set 6 games as the baseline punishment for domestic violence, regardless of injury severity or the number of victims. Deshaun Watson received 11 games and a fine after more than 24 women accused him of sexual misconduct. Miles Bridges served only 10 games after a no-contest plea to felony domestic violence involving injuries that prosecutors said could have caused great bodily harm or death to the mother of his children. Jackson Hayes received no suspension at all for nearly 2 years after pleading no contest to false imprisonment and resisting arrest. These are not oversights. They are priorities. We love sports because sports give us an escape. But this escape becomes complicity when we stop asking ourselves, who is getting hurt in order for us to keep being entertained? No one should ever be too valuable to lose, especially when there's a victim out there who has lost everything.